You're listening to the suitesflow podcast.
What happens when creation becomes so easy? It kind of loses all meaning.
Exactly. And we're focusing specifically on the sudden, almost catastrophic influx of easily generated AI content.
Right, hitting the high-stakes world of architectural and real estate visualization. Pretty hard, it seems.
That's right. The listener notes describe a full-blown crisis of meaning in design. And our mission today isn't just about, the quality of the images.
Which can be stunning, apparently.
Oh, absolutely breathtaking. But it's more about how this sheer abundance, this new effortlessness, is actively eroding trust across the whole industry.
Okay, let's unpack that straight away. Because the core argument here seems devastatingly simple.
It is.
When anyone can conjure up a digital masterpiece with just like a single sentence, the currency of awe, that feeling of wow, it inflates so much, becomes worthless.
It's the ultimate paradox of abundance, yeah. It just fundamentally undermines the whole value proposition.
So we need to trace this transition.
Yeah.
How did we get from valuing the struggle, the human effort in creation?
You're celebrating the instantaneous result.
Right.
If effort is just completely removed from the equation, what are we actually admiring anymore?
Good question.
So we need to look at this inflation of awe, then the danger that poses to industry trust, and then crucially find what the sources call the better way.
How designers can use AI as an accelerator, not just a replacement.
Precisely.
Okay, let's start with that inflation, because I think everyone can relate to this. You're scrolling through a professional feed, maybe LinkedIn,
Yep.
and bam, you stop. The sources talk about that exact moment.
Yeah.
Seeing this post featuring a jaw-dropping, high-rise penthouse rendering.
It's a perfect example, isn't it? Sleek glass walls, gravity-defying furniture, some completely impossible sweeping vista.
And it always comes with that massive wall of text, right? The 1,400-word manifesto about the vision, the biophilic philosophy, the human-centered design.
Exactly. You read all that and you're like gearing up to salute the sheer human grit that must have gone into realizing this vision.
But then, this is where it gets really interesting, according to the notes. You scan the tags.
And there it is.
Hashtag UO-generated, hashtag DLE3, hashtag Midjourney.
Yeah. This wasn't weeks of painstaking labor or late nights arguing over, global illumination settings.
Nope, it was a prompt. Took 5 minutes, maybe a few little tweaks.
So the impressiveness just collapses instantly.
Right.
It's not that the image quality is poor, the pixels might be absolutely flawless, but because it was effortless, the admiration just vanishes. Poof.
And this is that scarcity principle you mentioned at work.
Totally. Think back like a decade ago, stumbling across an incredible rendering, say a complex Tadao and Do concrete texture, or the fluid complexity of a Zaha Hadid curve.
That was an event?
It was an event. Because you knew, instinctively, it represented hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of painstaking human labor.
And that labor was specific, wasn't it? It wasn't just drawing. It was wrestling with physics.
Yes.
When we talk about human achievement in this context, we mean architects sketching something maybe impossible, and then 3D artists having to force reality onto the pixels.
Exactly. They were battling complex rendering engines like V-Ray, tweaking global illumination settings for hours just to get the light bounce right. They were defining texture maps for real materials, ensuring structural integrity. And that took deep expertise, serious computing power, and immense patience.
That effort, that friction, that was the currency.
That was the currency, and now
Yeah.
scarcity is just gone.
Yeah, the source estimates, like 90% of visualization content flooding feeds today is what they actually call AI slop.
Yeah, and we need to be clear about that term. Slop here doesn't mean low-quality pixels.
All right, they might look beautiful.
It could be stunning, weaving, Renaissance frescoes with cyberpunk vibes, because AI has access to this limitless visual library. But it's slop because it lacks that human struggle. It lacks human verification. It lacks structural intent.
You just type futuristic loft, ocean views, Bauhaus meets biophilic design, make it golden hour.
And 5 minutes later, boom, brochure-ready image for maybe $20 a month.
And the human contribution gets reduced to basically writing that 1,400-word philosophy after the fact, just to justify the machine's output.
Which brings us back to that core economic principle where there's no scarcity, there's no value. Simple as that.
So when anyone can mass produce these hyperreal visuals,
The collective impact is just this digital sludge, as the sources call it. It breeds irrelevance and fatigue. It's kind of like that early NFT craze, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Where the sheer speed of generation just destroyed the value of any individual asset. One person could churn out 1,000 NFTs in an hour.
That's a good comparison, but I think the visualization one feels even more severe, actually.
How-
Well, NFT value was, let's be honest, purely speculative, right? Visualization has real-world utility. It's supposed to promise a buildable structure.
Ah, okay, I see where you're going.
So that flood of apathy on social media, that's bad enough. But when we shift this into actually selling real estate,
Yeah.
the stakes become actual liabilities.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head there. This overflow isn't just cheapening online feeds, it's reckless. It's potentially financially dangerous in the real world of property development.
Because renderings sell dreams.
That must translate into brick-and-mortar reality. And the immediate danger is these AI hallucinations driving massive sales commitments based on falsehoods.
Okay, what kind of hallucinations are we talking about specifically? What did the sources mention?
Well, it's the impossible features mainly. Things like balconies that just defy the engineering requirements of the building's facade,
Right.
or impossible views that completely violate current zoning laws. Or, and this is my favorite category from the notes, just sheer impracticality.
Like,
One source mentioned a visualization where the kitchen sink was replaced by like a small ornamental waterfall that just drained straight onto the floor.
okay, that's pretty out there. Beautiful, maybe, but totally useless.
Exactly. Beautiful, impossible, and useless. Another example showed this grand soaring ceiling, but it completely forgot to factor in the massive space needed for essential HVAC ductwork.
Wow. Okay, that kind of structural ignorance is a massive liability.
Huge. Buyers or investors, they look at that gorgeous picture, they commit maybe millions based on that AI promise.
And then the brick and mortar truth hits, as the notes say.
Precisely. The HVAC system lowers the ceiling by 3 feet. The neighboring tower they forgot about blocks that perfect golden hour view. Or the waterfall kitchen sink requires, 20 hours of mopping a day.
And that gap, that fundamentally erodes trust, doesn't it?
Critically, trust is probably the most expensive commodity in any multi-million-dollar transaction. When a quick 5-minute prompt results in a visual lie,
The client's faith in the entire process, and probably the entire firm, just evaporates. Gone. I can only imagine the frustration for actual architects, too. They go through years of education, learning structural limits, building codes,
all that hard-won knowledge.
only to have a client wave some structurally impossible AI image in their face, demanding, make it exactly like this.
It's deeply frustrating, and it cheapens the core profession. The source material really argues that this whole goal of using 5-minute prompts for social media clout, that desire for instant, unearned awe, it ultimately damages everyone who relies on truth and feasibility in design.
Okay, so if flooding the feeds with unfiltered visuals is the catastrophe, can we really put the genie back in the bottle? I mean, we constantly hear this narrative, AI will kill jobs.
Right, that's the common fear.
But the source material here seems very clear. AI actually needs human intent and judgment. Because left unchecked, it just hallucinates wildly.
Absolutely. The machine is, frankly, a terrible editor and an even worse engineer. Anyone who's played with generative AI for more than 10 minutes realizes this.
It excels at aesthetics.
But fails miserably at physics. It creates staircases that lead nowhere, doors that open into solid walls, rooms where light just bends in physically impossible ways. It needs our validation. It needs our reality check.
Okay, so instead of replacement, we should be aiming for acceleration. That's the argument.
That's the core idea, yeah.
But I want to challenge this hybrid model for a second. Doesn't using AI for even the initial concepts, even if they're just quick sparks, doesn't that fundamentally cheapen the initial creative process itself? Are we just swapping out the serendipity of hand sketching for pure mechanical optimization?
That's a really valid concern, and the sources acknowledge it, but they argue that the human designer's intent remains the critical starting point.
Okay.
Think of AI not as the artist, maybe, but as a hyper-efficient interface, a channel from your brain to the screen, as one source put it.
A channel from your brain to the screen. I like that.
It rapidly generates variations based on your knowledge, your goals, not just random pixels.
That concept is quite compelling. So let's detail this hybrid model, because this feels like the critical takeaway for you listening. What does that workflow actually look like in practice?
Okay, so step 1 is what they call the idea spark. The designer uses AI to rapidly explore initial concepts. So instead of spending, say, 2 days sketching 50 variations of a building facade, they can prompt, sketch a sustainable urban loft, then refine it. Okay, more weathered wood, less glass, integrate a green wall for passive cooling. This happens in minutes, not days.
And the key here is that the designer is guiding the exploration, right?
Okay.
Based on actual real-world knowledge of sustainability, materials, whatever.
Yeah.
Not just random aesthetic keywords.
Exactly. They're steering the ship. But then, and this is crucial, the moment that concept leaves the realm of just a spark, human craft must take over. That's step 2.
This is the feasibility check.
Right.
The reality check.
Absolutely crucial. The designer takes that beautiful but maybe structurally suspect AI concept, the one with the impossible cantilever perhaps, and imports it immediately into professional software. Rhino, Autodesk, whatever, enforces physical rules.
And then the human judgment kicks in.
Fully. The designer has to adjust the geometry to fit real-world load-bearing requirements. They have to texture it with real, actual, purchasable materials, and they have to render it using proper physics-based light simulation, ensuring every shadow, every reflection is accurate and achievable.
Okay, so they're basically using the AI output as an incredibly sophisticated, super high-fidelity sketch.
Sort of, yeah.
But the final client-facing deliverable is still fundamentally a product of human engineering and applied physics. It sounds like the tool just helps you waste less time on the early low-fidelity drafts.
Precisely, you put it perfectly. And that's why the sources really emphasize strategic backstage use of AI.
Meaning, don't let the raw AI content face the client alone.
Never. The truly valuable application of AI here is non-client facing. Things like running quick comps or roughs internally.
Right.
Performing really intense market trend analysis, like predicting which specific countertop materials are trending for lofts in this specific zip code.
That's interesting. Stuff humans can do, but AI can do much faster.
Way faster. Or simulating complex light paths and sunlight angles over the course of an entire year to optimize window placement.
Right, so AI crunches the data on feasibility, market demand, physics, allowing the human designer to focus their precious time on the stuff AI can't do.
Like the emotional pull, the cultural fit of the project, the narrative.
The human stuff.
Yeah.
So the key differentiator then, it really just boils down to discipline, doesn't it?
It seems so.
Are you filtering the AI output through the lens of structural reality and genuine expertise? Or are you just dumping the pretty slop onto social media for likes?
That is the core decision every single designer has to face right now. Flooding feeds with unfiltered, hyper-real visuals. That destroys trust. Using that exact same power to amplify human execution and ensure feasibility, that builds trust faster than ever before.
So looking ahead, what's the inevitable outcome of this current visual flood? Where does this end?
Well, the sources predict a massive burnout. Pretty much inevitable. This current wave of AI visuals, it's going to inflate itself into oblivion.
So it just becomes background noise.
Exactly. It'll rapidly fade into the visual background, becoming generic and instantly skippable. Just like most stock photography is today, right?
You barely even see it anymore.
When everything looks infinitely polished and perfect, nothing actually feels special.
Which means scarcity will return.
Scarcity will return, but not in the pixels themselves. The value won't be in the flawless render anymore. It'll be in the provenance.
Provenance. Okay, explain.
The market is going to stop caring so much about just the image quality and start craving proof. Was this the result of 5 minutes of prompting or 5 weeks of human struggle, iteration, and verification?
People will want to know the story behind it.
We'll seek the human signature again. You know, the slightly imperfect curve that shows a hand was involved, the deliberate design choice that was maybe hard to execute, the actual story of effort, that sense of unearned instant perfection will pass, and the hard-won product will be valued again.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us, for you listening? The sources seem to leave us with a really provocative thought on discipline. And it extends way beyond just visualization, really, into any creative field facing this kind of rapid automation.
It does, in a world where absolutely stunning art can be generated in mere minutes. The ultimate impressiveness isn't actually found in the AI's power itself.
Where's it found then?
The real test, the sources argue, lies in our discipline, our ability to resist the temptation of, well, laziness. It's the commitment to real effort. It's the architect who still studies real light, not just simulates it. It's the structural designer who perfects the blueprint down to the last detail. It's the artist who builds a physical model just to understand how a material actually behaves.
So use AI.
Use AI to go deeper, faster, explore more options, but never, ever let it fake your spark. Never let it replace the human intent and the grounding in reality.
The goal then is to emerge from this creating work that is
Unmistakably human, grounded in human intent and effort.
unmistakably human. That's a great thought to leave with, and maybe a roadmap for how to survive and even thrive in this new age of effortless creation.
Let's hope so.
You're listening to the Suitesflow podcast.